Here I have the edge banding attached to the shelving and divider units, and they're being clamped for about half an hour. And after the glue's set up, I'll go ahead and trim using the method we used in the slab plywood build. You can see that I've got the case components complete. These are the dividers, and then this is the base. Now the edge banding, hardwood edge banding is trimmed nice and flush, and everything's cut square. So we're ready to do the joinery for the case work. And in this case, we're going to use the domino joiner. Now domino joiner is great for joining pieces end to end and side to side, but it's also good for joining pieces at a right angle. I'm going to show you a method that's going to make joining these cases together very simple. So you might recall that earlier when we were doing the side panels, we used the fence here and use that to align our pieces. Now we're not aligning any pieces to each other right now. In fact, we're going to be making sure that they're joined at a right angle. So instead, on this operation, we're going to be using the base plate itself to set the distance between the bit and the reference surface. And Festool designed the Domino DF500 joiner almost to be perfect for use with 3/4 inch sheet goods and case material. So you can use this on melamine, plywood, MDF, just you name it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out the distance that I want between the end of the base and the inside of the divider. And I only need to make one mark right here because I'm actually going to be using the divider to set the line. Now because I'm aligning the inside of this divider to the mark, I'm going to make sure to fold it down this way. And that way the reference surface is the base as well as the inside surface because they're touching each other. So making sure that the divider is aligned up with the mark we just made and that the front is flush all the way to the end, I can go ahead and just clamp this up. And you're ready to cut with the domino. Here I've set up the domino joiner with a cross stop and with a 5mm bit. So we use this cross stop set to 100mm on each end to reference our joint. That way we don't have to make any pencil marks. The first series of cuts, I'm going to reference the base plate up against the divider, and then we'll move across, mortising on the base until we reach the end. And for the second set of cuts, I'm going to reference against the surface of the base and cut into the edge of the divider all the way to the end. For the first cut, I'm going to reference with the paddle on the domino. And for the second cut, I'm going to use the pin on the cross stop. And I'll set the domino depth to 15mm. Since we're using the 30mm long domino tenon, and this will split the difference evenly between the two members. let's see how this goes together. I've put the dominoes in the base, and I will line up with, there you go, fits in pretty nicely and right on the mark. I repeat the same process with the stringers. I'm going to domino the front edge mortise with a paddle at the narrow setting, and I'll do the second one with the wider setting and reference off of the cross dot. Now with the side assemblies glued up, I can do the final casework joinery. You'll see that I had these scrap blocks to support the domino joiner because there's a taper cut on this edge here. So if I put the domino joiner without any support, it's going to tip. The other thing is I've drawn out the line to where I want the top edge of my case bottom to be, and I've clamped a piece of plywood here. It doesn't have to be the case bottom, it can be anything, because I'm actually not going to cut this right now because otherwise I don't have much support to cut from this end like we did earlier with the dividers. So we'll do that separately. As long as we keep the correct spacing, it won't be an issue. For the case sides, I'm using a 6mm domino, so I'll plunge 20mm into each end since the domino is 40mm long. Now I'll domino the bottom of the case. As you can see here, I've gone ahead and thrown it together in a dry fit just to make sure all the dimensions are correct and all the pieces are fitting together quite nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and take off these side panels and sand them down, do the finish work on them, and then we can throw this all together, put some glue on it, and clamp it all up. Now it's time to do the finish work on the side panels. Now, earlier you saw me use the R90DX in the Rotex mode, which is the more aggressive gear-driven mode, to take away the bandsaw marks quickly, and then we switched to the random orbital mode and gave it a smoother finish. Now we're going to go from 100 grit to 220 grit on the whole panel, and we'll prepare it for a Danish oil finish. The R90's pad size is perfect for going on these legs and the horizontal members, so that's what we're going to be using here. As with any sanding equipment in my shop, regardless of how good the dust collection is, I always wear a good quality dust mask, a respirator, and really the RO90 picks up a good amount of dust when it's hooked up to a CT dust extractor. And that really reduces the amount of residual dust that's floating around the shop, and that's great. When I'm right in front of the tool, there's no taking any chances. I always recommend wearing a good respirator. The superfine dust particles are what are most harmful to health, so it's a good idea to do that. I'll be honest, one of the most annoying things about sanding is securing the workpiece. You don't want to let it be moving around when using a machine sander, so you've got to clamp it somehow. Now I could use one of these screw clamps and go from the top and clamp it down, but then I wouldn't be able to get around this thing, so I'd have to remove it every time I have to sand. So what I found is really helpful are the Festool clamping elements right here, and they consist of a set of dogs and these clamping units here, which I would just tighten up like that, and they don't inhibit the sanding operation, and they're really easy to use, so I highly recommend those.